John Wayne Gacy, also known as Killer Clown, murdered approximately 33 young men and boys from 1972 to 1978, burying 26 of them in the crawl space under his house. Gacy was confident and arrogant and managed to kill all of his victims in his own home with no one noticing. He was well known and connected in his community. No one in his life suspected him of murder before he was caught. Hey everybody, welcome to True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. I'm Christy Brower here with my sister, co-host and partner in crime, Katie Weaver. Hey Katie.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good. A tiny bit distracted. Realized I was still
Not
signed
on
into
screen?
the psychic hotline I work on, and I was
Oh no.
quickly signing off so that we could record. So sorry.
Right. Well, that's okay. How are you otherwise?
I am good. I am tired of the smoke, but other than that, we just have a really thick blanket of smoke right now.
Oh my
But
gosh.
it's supposed to cool down.
And
Like starting
rain.
tomorrow, it's supposed to be rainy and cool and nice, and
Yeah, I can't wait.
I'm all about it, man.
I am too.
Yeah, really, I'm good. I got nothing to complain about except for the smoke.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because
I'll go on that.
the smoke
How are
me
you?
as well, but I am really, really good. I'm having a lot of fun creating content over on TikTok and on Clapper and Instagram, and having a good time with all of that.
Very
and
good.
then, of course, having a good time with all of this.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about John Wayne Gacy today, mainly because I wanted to talk about him.
Yeah, it's time.
It is time.
I'm kind of surprised we've made it this deep into this podcast without doing John Wayne Gacy.
Right. And it's hard for us because we kind of go, okay, everybody's done, all the big serial killers. Do we do them again? And then I think, well, we have a different perspective. We're going to tell the story, but we're also going to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, the thing that's the weirdest for me about John Wayne Gacy, and we're going to get into a story and everything if you don't know who he is, he reminds me of our grandfather. And that is weird. Our grandfather was a sex offender. He went to prison for a while. He managed to get himself out of prison after only 6 months, even though he was sentenced to 3 to 5 years. That's important later.
Yeah.
But he had that ability to just talk his way out of nearly anything.
Yep.
And John Wayne Gacy was the same.
Yep. But yeah, he did. He had a way of making friends with people, making people think he was somebody he wasn't. Yeah.
He surely did. And he had a lot of people convinced that he was a real stand-up guy and real good guy in his community and that kind of stuff. And Gacy was the same. Oy. And there's a new documentary out on Gacy. It's on Peacock. If you haven't watched it, do, because they are airing some of it for the first time, actual footage of Gacy being interviewed. And it is the creepiest shit I've ever seen in my whole friggin' life.
Well, he's one of those serial killers that you give him a little attention and a little notoriety for what he's doing, and he just sings like a songbird.
He does.
He laid out in the most unbelievable detail everything about his murders.
Yeah.
Oh.
He did. And he showed absolutely zero remorse.
Oh, yeah.
He
none at all.
Repeatedly blamed his victims.
And their parents.
Yeah. Anybody that crossed him, basically. If he killed them, well, they should have stayed out of his way. Just so crazy. So let's get into this. Let's talk about John Wayne Gacy because there's a lot. So we're going to hit the highlights.
Yeah.
So John Wayne Gacy was born on March 17th, 1942. And he lived in Chicago.
Mhm.
His parents were John Stanley Gacy and Marion Elaine Robeson, or Robison, depending on where you're from. His dad was an auto repair machinist, and he was also a World War I vet.
Mhm.
And his mother was a homemaker.
Mhm.
His family was Catholic, and his grandparents were from Poland, so that's where his name is from.
Mhm.
His dad was an alcoholic, and he was physically abusive to his
Mhm.
family. His father spent a lot of time belittling him,
Mhm.
calling him dumb and stupid, and that he wasn't as good as his sisters.
Making fun of him for being too effeminate.
Yes, yes,
And
which
then
is
part of
very
that
important.
stemmed from, yeah, well, part of that stemmed from his heart condition. He had a
Right,
heart condition that
he did.
put him in and out of the hospital lots of times. And, when I was reading and hearing about that, I thought, I think part of what was happening with dad is that dad really resented the money they had to spend on him for his
Yes,
health care,
yeah,
and really resented the fact that he wasn't a regular boy. He couldn't play sports. He couldn't, regular boy, please. But, he couldn't play sports. He couldn't do things that I think dad wanted his son to be able to do.
right,
And
yeah, he wasn't
Gacy was
living up
none
at
of
all.
those things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So he did have a history of being molested, and he also had a history of molesting kids
Yeah.
when he was a child.
Hmm.
He never told anybody because he figured he would just be blamed, and that was another reason why he would be what his dad called a sissy and a mama's boy.
Hmm.
And he sort of always felt like he could never live up. He wanted to, but he could never live up to dad.
Yeah.
And so that was not a great way to grow up.
Yeah.
And, we always look at psychopaths like John Wayne Gacy and
Hmm.
question, like, were they created by their upbringing? Were they born? I think that's a tough I think that's a tough question with Gacy because obviously he
Hmm.
experienced a lot of abuse and some bad things,
Hmm.
but was it enough
Yeah, I know.
to make him into the monster that he was? I
No,
don't know.
I know. I'm not so sure of that either. Other interesting things about him, though. I mean, he couldn't keep a relationship together, but he could keep order in his life in other ways. He had a
Yeah,
successful business.
he
He was
did.
well loved in the community. He, though he did go to prison, like just thinking about like the path of a sociopath,
Yeah.
he fits the bill in some ways, but in others you go, he wasn't a hot mess. He really
No.
wasn't. But
I think
I don't
behind the
know.
scenes he was, but he was pretty good at covering it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, he fooled a lot of people for a lot of time, long time.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot we can talk about with his life, but let's jump into where things really start happening with him.
Yeah.
And that is in 1967, 1968. He was apparently giving alcohol to some teenage boys,
Mhm.
showing them pornographic films, and trying to have sexual contact with them.
Yeah.
So one of them accuses him of sodomy and attempted strangulation.
Mhm.
And he eventually actually pleads guilty to that.
Mhm.
So on December 3rd of 1968, he pleads guilty to sodomy and he heads off to prison. And he's given a 10-year prison sentence.
Mhm.
But here's where Gacy's ability to charm and manipulate people really kicks in.
Oh yeah.
Because before you know it, he's running the kitchen.
Yep.
He's like as high a level trust wise as you
Yep.
can even
It
get.
only took a few
And
months,
yeah,
and
it
he's running
happened
the kitchen.
quickly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it happened quick. And so he's playing that game again. Like he's this upstanding guy. He's lied to all the other inmates about what he did too. He did
Mhm.
not tell them about the sodomy. He told them he
Yeah.
was in trouble for giving alcohol and pornography to teens.
Mhm.
So through all of this, he ultimately gets paroled after 18 months.
Yeah. from a 10-year sentence.
Yeah. Like, what?
The only thing they didn't give him on a silver platter was that while he was in prison, his dad died.
Right.
And he actually petitioned the jail or the prison to let him go to his father's funeral.
Yeah.
And they did not. But that's about the only thing they didn't give him.
Right. Before you knew it, he wasn't even wearing a prison uniform anymore. He was wearing regular clothes.
Mm-hmm.
He had all the keys. He was everybody's boss.
Mm-hmm.
This is where this is his power. This is how he did this.
Yep.
So he gets out. And so he was in Iowa. Sorry, I get Ohio and Iowa mixed up, which is no offense to any of you that are from either of those states. He was
from
living
Idaho.
in
It
Iowa.
happens to us too.
Yes, it does. So he was living in Iowa with his wife and two children at the time that this all went down. His wife left him, of course. So
Yeah,
when
she
his
divorced him. Yeah, when he was in prison.
Wisely, very wisely.
Yeah.
So when he's released from prison, he goes to Chicago to live with his mom. And I think this is where things really go to shit because he's on parole as a sex offender.
Yeah.
But again, this is 1970.
Yeah.
We don't have good tracking information. So he heads off to Chicago and nobody even knows who he is or what he's doing or, like there's nobody checking up on him.
No, he's just starting over.
Yeah. They don't even know. The authorities don't even know.
Yeah.
So he kind of starts his own business. It's called PDM Contractors. And basically what he does is he remodels the interiors of businesses, mostly pharmacies. That's kind of his thing. So he's into like remodeling and interior design. And he and his mom buy this house. And this is in Norwood Park Township, which I think is just a suburb of
Chicago. Yeah.
Chicago. And so it looks like he's just off to the races, doing good stuff.
He births the persona of the clown.
He does, yeah.
And the clown he calls Pogo or Patches.
Yes.
And he is coming to, he
show.
is performing at children's hospitals and birthday parties and other charitable events. And he goes to he's a member of the Chamber of Commerce. And he's
Here
just
he is
totally
as Pogo.
Yeah.
I mean, if you need any nightmare fuel, boom, there you go.
But yeah, people just love him. He's just everybody's friend. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's working in the Democratic Party. He's working in all these local. He's kind of gotten connected politically because of his work in the Democratic Party and in this other community work that he's doing. So he kind of feels like, he can get away with some stuff, which is 100% true.
Totally. Yeah.
So, he's just playing his little game and people are just eating it up. So this is the thing that kills me is that there were many opportunities for the authorities to stop John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah, or to wonder what the hell he's got going on.
Right. So on February 12th of 1971, there's a teenage boy who tells the Chicago police that he was picked up from a bus station by Gacy and that Gacy tried to force him to have sex. But the boy doesn't show up to testify in court. And so they just drop the charges. And guess who does not hear about this?
Yeah.
The Iowa Parole Board.
Sure.
So nobody even knows. This dude is on parole for the very thing he tried to do right there. Nobody even
bats an eye. Nothing.
Yeah. So then in January of 1972, this is when it's believed that he killed his first victim. His name was Timothy McCoy, also picked up at the bus station. He brought him home, they got drunk, had sex, and then Gacy stabs him and buries him in the crawl space under his house.
Yep.
That becomes a real habit.
Yep. This must be quite the crawl space. I mean, it seems like it must take up the whole entirety of under the house.
It does. It does. In the pictures that I have seen, it is really big.
Mm-hmm.
It is also horrifying. But yes, it's really
yeah.
big. He actually manages to bury 26 bodies under there.
Yeah.
And that's when he runs out of room.
And he isn't even always under there digging the holes. He's got his employees doing it.
Yeah.
These young boys, these teenage boys that have no idea what they're doing.
Apparently just friggin' clueless.
Yep. They know it smells really horrible down there. And that's all they know.
So he says it's a sewage leak. And so his employees in his construction business are always down there laying bags of lime to take care of the smell and digging trenches.
Yes. He tells them he's having sewage problems.
Yeah. And he does stuff like he lays out boards and says, don't dig outside of these boards, only in these boards, because I have to lay more pipes or something. And this goes on for years.
Yeah.
And people just go, okay, well, it must be, you know?
Yep. Well, and a few different people that are working for him go missing.
Yes,
and
they do.
No one thinks to talk to him, apparently.
Well, they do a few times. But first, in 1972, John Gacy gets married again. He marries Carol Hoff. Now, Carol Hoff was his sister's best friend growing up. And almost immediately, she starts having problems with the smell in the house. And he's blaming it on the sewer and trying to fix it, but she's very unhappy about it. The neighbors are unhappy about it. The neighbors are literally calling him and coming to his house saying, your house makes our house stink.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Good Lord.
So all of this is going on, that he's, got his construction employees down there. All this stuff is going on. But he, while married, living in the house with his mother and his wife, he's burying bodies underneath the house.
Yeah.
He killed every single one of his victims at this house. Well, that we know of.
Where the hell are the other people who live there? It's so insane to me that he keeps managing to do this.
Well, the second wife, Carol, it seems like, was just real checked out and afraid of him and just stayed away. And when things got creepy, she did witness some stuff, but she wasn't sure what it was. All she knew is that she needed to get the hell away from him. She got away from him actually after finding gay porn that belonged to him. And she said, why didn't you tell me you were gay? Why did you marry me?
Yeah.
And she had 2 little girls, you guys. Yeah. Fortunately, I don't know. He was more into boys, and so her girls were okay. Yeah. But she eventually, after finding the gay porn, she takes the kids and they get the hell out.
Yeah.
By this stage, mom is quite elderly, very clueless. Also, John is obviously like her favorite, most beloved child who can do no wrong. And so she never sees anything that he does as wrong.
Yeah.
Right? So then the police start getting a little wise to him. So on July 31st of 1975, John Butkovich disappears. Now, he had been one of his employees. They had a big confrontation because Gacy had been unable to pay him, or unwilling, hadn't paid him his wages. And he just disappeared. Yeah. Just into thin air, disappeared. Yeah. And his car was found not far from his parents' house with the key in the ignition. I wonder who drove it there.
Yeah.
So he continues to, just run his business and kill people at night and do whatever, go be Pogo the Clown during on the weekends and stuff. Oh my gosh. Well, they really start to put a lot of pressure. The community starts putting more pressure because some stuff is just not right here. So in January of 1976, that's when the police start staking out his home.
Yeah.
Because there is a 9-year-old male prostitute who is missing. And there's questions about, what's going on here. And so the police start watching him. They try asking his employees, most of whom were also his sexual partners, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't really get anywhere with those guys. They're just like, they don't want to talk.
Yeah.
So in March of 1976 is when John and Carol get divorced. And he really starts amping up the Pogo the Clown persona at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just really goes on a spree because at this point it's just his pretty daughtery old mother around. And they figure that from April of 1976 through the end of 1977, he killed 24 people. Which, what the hell?
Yeah.
So then on March 21st of 1978, Jeff Rignall, let's see, sorry, I've got this backwards. Oh, Gacy chloroforms him.
Yeah.
Tortures him and rapes him and then dumps him in a park. Which is really weird to me. Like, this is
right.
the only...
Not
why
his
did
MO.
he not kill him? So ultimately, Rignall gets $3,000 in settlement, and doesn't pursue charges against him. But he nearly killed that guy.
Yeah.
So then, finally, the case that gets Gacy caught. This is in December 11th of 1978. 15-year-old Robert Priest goes missing. And he had told his mom that he was going to see someone about a high-paying job.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he goes to talk to Gacy. Gacy convinces him to come to his house.
Yeah.
And tells him he'll just drive him home. But just come to my house, let's talk about it. And this kid, he had murdered a lot of kids who were runaways and prostitutes and kids who were in trouble and stuff. And so there weren't a lot of people looking for them.
Yeah.
Well, he screwed up with Robert Priest because that wasn't true. He was a well-known kid at his school. He was beloved by his family. So when he goes missing, it's major.
Yeah.
So the police really start thinking it's him because they can, they can place this kid going back with him right to his house.
Yeah.
On December 13th of 1978, so 2 days after Robert goes missing, Gacy finally does agree to be questioned by the Des Plaines police. And he gives them the keys to his house.
Yeah.
Which, this is some of the stuff that he does is so arrogant that it sort of makes people wonder, like, if he did it, would he really do that?
Right.
Well, they find in his house a receipt that came from Robert Priest. So
don't they find some IDs too? They find several things.
Eventually they do. Right now they just find the receipt.
Okay.
So they put him on round the clock surveillance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the police follow him and he knows they're following him.
Oh yeah.
And so he invites them in the house for dinner and to come inside for a drink and stuff. That's how arrogant and overly confident he was.
He goes in a restaurant and they do too. And pretty soon there's beers on their table from him.
from him.
And things like that. Yeah.
And they're like, hey, anytime he's willing to talk to us, sure,
Yeah.
let's see if we get somewhere with this.
Yeah.
Well, apparently, so that was it was December 13th when his home was searched. Now, for whatever reason, they don't find any bodies that day, or I don't know, he must have put down a lot of extra lime because they don't smell anything. So after a week of him being followed, he gets he's starting to crack. He gets really drunk, and he goes to his lawyer, Sam Amarante, and admits that he has tortured, raped, and killed at least 30 young men.
Yeah.
Tells his attorney. And apparently, at some point, the police were around, and so was Gacy's attorney. And Gacy went to the police and just said, don't let him leave. Which probably breached client-attorney privilege, but he was really afraid of him getting
The attorney
again.
went to the police and said,
yeah, the attorney said,
you said Gacy.
Oh, I'm sorry. The attorney. Yeah, the attorney's like, do not let him leave.
Yeah.
So finally, on December 21st, the police arrest him. But do you know why they arrest him? This is just so...
Why did he do this?
Why did he do this? He thought I don't know. Well, there is conjecture that he was planning to kill himself. And he was giving all of his things away and going around and saying goodbye to his friends and stuff.
Interesting. Okay.
So he goes in this gas station and he hands a bag of marijuana to the gas station clerk and then leaves. Well, the police are following him. The police go right in. The clerk's like, hey, this is not mine. I don't want anything to do with this, right?
We didn't ask for this. We didn't buy this. He handed it to us and left.
Yeah, exactly. So that gave them the right to then arrest him, and also another opportunity at searching his house.
Yeah. Well, they had tried to get another warrant and couldn't get one.
Just couldn't get one.
There was just no probable cause.
No. And this is Gacy. This is Pogo the Clown. He's not doing anything,
Yeah.
So on December 22nd, he actually confesses to the police that he has killed more than 30 young men and boys. He's not even 100% sure how many. And that most of them are buried in the crawl space of his house. He's thrown some in the Des Plaines River. He does try to retract his confession, but it's a little late for that, considering that they can prove everything he said.
Well, and the great detail he goes into in bragging it up about all of these glorious murders, it's a little hard to retract that. It was just a little too much detail there, Gacy.
He was a lot too proud of it. Way a lot too proud of it. So investigators finally then know to look under the crawl space. They get 26 bodies out of there. They get another 3 on his property, and another 4 out of the rivers in southeast of Chicago.
Yeah.
So they find all the bodies. The problem is they don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he gets indicted on April 23rd of 1979, and he's indicted for a total of 33 murders. And that that total at the time was the largest number charged to any one person in American history.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there have been some after him that have outdone him. However, at the time, this was like the biggest serial killer case the U.S. had ever seen.
Yeah.
So the trial lasted 5 weeks. And remember the guy that he raped and beat really bad and let go?
Yeah.
Rignall. He throws up on the stand while trying to talk about what Gacy did to him. He talks about And then they have a lot of forensic experts talking about how what he did is he garroted most of his
Right.
Victims.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and he had a trick with handcuffs, a sleight of hand
he did.
trick with handcuffs that he would basically trick them into handcuffing themselves,
Yeah.
and then they were screwed.
Thinking this was a Pogo the Clown trick.
Yeah.
And then they couldn't get out of him. He used a lot of chloroform too.
Yes.
So he tries to enter an insanity plea. Well, the defense does. This is against Gacy's wishes. He does not want to do this, but they do it anyway. So his mother and his sister testify on his behalf, basically talking about the abuse that he experienced.
Yeah.
And they have some medical witnesses talking about his mental health.
Yeah.
But of course, the state argues that he's fully capable of comprehending what he's done.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, this was a very dramatic moment in his trial. They brought in the trap door that came off the front of the crawl space.
Ugh.
And during closing arguments, the prosecutor opened that trap door and threw photo after photo after photo in there, photos of all of his victims into the trap door. So, as you can imagine, the jury takes 1 hour and 50 minutes to find him guilty.
Yeah.
Like, there was
Really
no
quick.
friggin' question here. There was also no question that he did not qualify for the insanity defense.
No.
At all.
Not at all.
So then the same jury only takes 2 hours and 15 minutes to give him the death penalty.
Yeah.
Oh. So the judge, after the trial, said, whatever the cost of the trial, it was a small price. What we do for the John Gacys of this world, we will do for everyone. Which I thought was kind of interesting. So he heads off to prison that he cannot weasel his way out of.
Right. There's no weaseling his way into some early parole this time or any of that kind of stuff. And the special treatment of the past is going to be a little harder to get, considering.
For sure.
Though
For sure.
he still makes friends.
And is so arrogant. So he makes friends with this writer. And this writer who wrote to him and visited him and spoke to him on the phone for many years leading up to his death. Mostly because this guy was fascinated with him, and because Gacy had really never told his story in a coherent way. And he did manage to get that. And so go, if you have Peacock, go watch it on Peacock. It's a 6-part series. It is so good. But to get to see Gacy and how freaking, even now, well, now he's dead now, but even then, sitting on death row in prison for these horrendous crimes, you would not, the dude had not a care in the world. And was so proud of him and all of the choices that he had made, and was 100% sure that everything was the fault of his victims and their families. It is insane.
Yeah.
He has the gall to say that he does not understand why people are now afraid of clowns. That somehow, what he has done has given clowns a bad name.
Yeah. He also tells a detective that clowns can murder people.
Yes.
Clowns can murder people. Clowns can get away with murder, don't you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, clearly they can. I mean, the fact that he got away with this many murders before anybody really noticed. Well, and I mean, like, look at this. This is his mugshot when he was initially arrested.
Yeah.
Look at that friggin' smile on his face.
Yep.
He was loving the attention.
Oh, yeah.
That's all he wanted was the attention.
Yep. Yeah.
Crazy.
Totally. Well, and then an attorney got involved that was against the death penalty and
Yep.
would cover people in death penalty cases. And she worked really hard to try to stay the death penalty for him.
If you're
And
going to fight the death penalty, why are you choosing John Wayne Gacy to
it's
fight
hard
it?
for me to understand. And
Yeah.
she was very hated. She was very hated by people, that believed that he should die for what he did. But she, basically just as a legal mind and as a human, she stood against the death penalty. They lost.
They did. Yeah.
And the day that he was put to death, there were people lining the streets
Yeah.
in front of the prison and in town celebrating
Yeah.
his death.
They were.
Also, with lots of signs and things like that, and they were also calling for her death.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It is a strange thing. Like if you're going to pick a death penalty case, why not pick a victim or an offender in which maybe there's some question about what they did. I mean,
yeah,
and maybe that was her point, is that even John Wayne Gacy shouldn't be put to death. I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
So before he died, he did some rather controversial things in prison. I know this will be shocking.
Oh yeah.
First of all, he was painting
Mm-hmm.
pictures of clowns and selling them.
And
Look
earning
at this.
money,
Be
which you're not
prepared.
allowed to do.
If you're terrified of clowns, please close your eyes right now. Yeah, that's one of his paintings. Okay. Here's a group of them. Yeah, because he did other things. He did portraits too, but
Mm-hmm.
he did a lot of pictures of Pogo the Clown
Mm-hmm.
and actually sold them,
Yeah.
which is just gross and horrifying. And it turns out that there are John Wayne Gacy paintings out there in the world. People
Oh
own
yeah.
them.
Oh yeah. They're a big, a hot piece of murderabilia.
They are, which is really strange to me. The other thing that he did, you cannot deny that Gacy was brilliant.
Oh yeah.
He was brilliant. And so he launched a phone line that was $1.99 a minute. And when you called it, you could listen to an interview of him answering commonly asked questions about his case. I mean,
Yeah.
and it would be pretty interesting
Yeah.
to hear him talk about it in his, because it's
Mm-hmm.
this documentary is really interesting to watch and to
Mm-hmm.
get to see him describe things. I mean, and to really, I mean,
Oh yeah.
that dude's a psychopath, and there is no doubt about it. When you watch
Mm-hmm.
him talk, you can see it.
Yeah.
Well, on May 10th, 1994, he was finally executed.
Yeah. But not before he got to have a private picnic on the grounds with
Yeah.
his family.
Yeah. Who
And
gets
he
that before
wanted,
the death penalty? I've never heard of that ever happening.
me neither, but this was Gacy.
Oh
He
man,
ordered a
talk.
bucket of KFC, a dozen fried shrimp, French fries, fresh strawberries, and Diet Coke.
Yeah. At one point, he managed a KFC.
Yes.
In his first marriage, his wife's father owned a
Mm-hmm.
couple of KFCs.
Yeah.
Actually, he used to like to tell people that he owned a couple. He had a chicken franchise. He didn't.
No.
Such a liar. Isn't that crazy? But
Mm-hmm.
what did he say right before lethal injection?
Kiss my ass.
Of
Yep.
course he did. Of course he
Yep.
did. Because he went to his death with absolutely no remorse whatsoever for the things
Yep.
that he's done.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Just stunningly psychopathic.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's that charisma and just that ability to overcome problems. He was a real problem solver. Most of those problems were solved illegally, but he
Mm-hmm.
knew He knew how to talk and be in on, one of the good old boys. And, he
Yeah.
would tell people, oh, I'm connected. I have political connections. I can
Mm-hmm.
get away with anything. And it was true for a long time
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that was, in fact, the case. He
Mm-hmm.
was also well known and loved in his community.
Oh, yeah. 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 Well, but back to the execution for just a second.
Uh-huh.
His brain was removed right after he died, and it was given to Helen Morrison. Now, Helen Morrison had testified for the defense at his trial. She is, or was, an American forensic psychiatrist, and she studied the psychology of serial killers and the brains of serial killers to try to find some common link as to what's going wrong in people's brains that they do these things.
Right.
So his brain was actually studied, and is actually, I believe, I'm not sure if she's still alive or not. I've seen, I'm going to say she is.
Okay.
I've seen both, but we're going to go on yes. At any rate,
Okay.
that she still is in possession of his brain.
Wow. I've heard that there is some similarities, but it's not enough to go, okay, if you're
Here it
going to be a
is.
John Wayne Gacy or a Ted Bundy or
Yeah.
whatever, this is what's going wrong in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that simple.
No, no, not at all. Not even close. Yeah.
But it is a scary thought that someone like Gacy could be living in our own communities right now.
Right.
And we wouldn't even know. BTK was the same way. He
Right.
was the president of his church board. He
Mm-hmm.
did all kinds of civic work and church work and was well known and respected in his community.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and he had been murdering people for 2 decades.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that the ability to compartmentalize like that is,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most people would be so overwhelmed by the fact that they killed one person that they would have a complete meltdown and have to tell somebody,
Uh-huh.
to be able to continue to function
Yeah.
after doing something like that over and
Yeah.
over again is,
Yeah. And earn money and pay bills and
yeah,
be successful in other
yeah,
ways.
continue
It's
to function as if everything is fine.
mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
cannot imagine.
No. No. So there you go. So between that and Stephen King's It, now you know why people are so damn afraid of clowns.
Right? There we go. And in case you forgot, here he is.
Oh,
Right?
I was not ready for that.
I've seen a lot of clowns in my day.
Mm-hmm.
That is terrifying to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I had seen it not knowing who it was, I think it would be terrifying.
How wasn't that the end?
Is right.
Yikes.
Yeah. Oh. And there were people over the years who thought Gacy was creepy.
Oh,
But
I'm sure.
no one in his life thought that he was a mass murderer. Nobody thought he was a serial killer like this.
Mm-hmm.
There was nobody in his life that went, that dude's crazy. He's doing terrible things.
Mm-hmm.
Some people didn't like him. Some women found him creepy. The stuff was there, and his employees knew
Mm-hmm.
that he was gay, that he was having sex with male prostitutes and stuff. They knew those things,
Mm-hmm.
but somehow they never put it together that they were literally digging graves under his house.
No.
And is it
they
just that
thought it was
they
a
didn't
sewer?
want to know? Yeah. Was it just safer not to ask any questions?
Maybe.
Was it just safer to not know? I don't know. It's hard to know what you do in that position, but
Well, he took good care of his employees too. He paid them
he
pretty
did.
well.
He
He would.
provided them with drugs and alcohol, and they
Mm-hmm.
had keys to his house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he manipulated them very heavily.
Oh yeah, he would loan them his vehicles. He would, yeah, they'd knock off work early and go do something fun together. Sometimes he'd take them all out to eat, stuff like that.
Yeah,
He gave them reasons to feel guilty about questioning him or not liking him by doing nice things for them.
he sure did.
Yeah.
The dude is one of the best manipulators I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, there you have it. John Wayne Gacy, you guys. This
Blah.
is our Wednesday show this week, which means that we
Yeah.
will be back tonight with
Mhm.
our live stream Wednesday case update.
You
And that's
bet.
at 7 p.m. Mountain, and that will be on YouTube and our Facebook page.
Yes.
So you can join us on either. We'd love to have you in the chat and hear from you. And then on Thursday, we have the Psychic Hour. It is also a live stream on YouTube and Facebook. And it is also at 7 p.m. Mountain. And we'd love to have you there as well. So we'll be talking tarot in the
Absolutely.
chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So keep coming back for more awesome content. As always, please like, subscribe, and share. It helps us to grow. We appreciate all of you for being here with us. And you know it. We are True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. Thanks for being here.
Take care.